All right, let's go to Sherry in Brooktondale, New York. What's up, Sherry?
Hi, Dr. Delony.
What are you up to?
Work.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a registered nurse.
Oh, you've had a boring few years.
Yeah, right.
How are you, for real?
Good.
That's tough. That's tough. And in New York, nonetheless. Yeah. Good grief.
Yeah.
Sheesh. All right, so what's up? How can I help?
So my question or concern is I'm naturally an anxious person, but when I'm in a vehicle with somebody else, especially as a passenger, my anxiety is through the roof. Natural, back roads I do fine with, but high traffic situations, stopping, like when there's a lot of traffic around, traffic lights, the highway is the worst. Even with my husband, we've been married for almost, I think 27 years, and my anxiety, I used to be pretty cool about things, and it's terrible the last couple of years.
Did something happen to set it off?
No. I mean, not really. Maybe I'm going to say 20 years ago, I was following somebody. A friend and I were, in a vehicle, and she had pointed out to me that the car in front of us was swerving a little bit, and the car actually in front of me went over a yellow line and was hit head on by a tractor trailer. And then the tractor trailer came in front of me.
Yep.
So luckily I had backed off, or I think we would have been, in that accident.
Okay. So you just telling me that?
Yep.
Does your heart start beating faster?
Yeah.
Your voice changed a little bit.
Oh, okay.
When you talk about that story, you tell somebody that story, you remember that story.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much detail for detail.
You can feel it on you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then all of a sudden, the last couple of years, this pops up. Is this getting into the way of your life? I know that sounds like a dumb question, but I mean, it could just be a simple answer would be, well, just don't drive on the highway. Tell me where this is getting involved. This is messing your life up a little bit.
It is. My husband and I are to the point now where we're arguing in the car, and he's like, and he's a school bus driver, so he's
he
very
does this
competent.
for a living. Oh, there's nothing that husbands like more when they're good at like two things in the world, and their wife is like, you know what, you should be doing.
Yes, and that's exactly me. I tell him what to do. Turn here, look here, look out for that car.
Don't do that, Sherry. Don't do that.
I know, it's really bad. And then my boys, I have two sons who, I was helping them with getting their driver's license. And so I was often in the back seat because I'm the obnoxious, worried mom. And I tried my best to keep my mouth shut, but still it was
So literally a backseat
hard.
driver.
Yes, I am, no matter who it is.
And I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying this just as a fact. That creates then, how many boys you got?
I have two.
Okay. That creates a legacy of anxious drivers that they will then pass on to. Do you see how that goes?
Yep.
Right. And I know you know that. I know that's one of the reasons why you want to. So two big things here. I'll start off with a question that I always ask people who are wrestling with intense anxiety like this, especially one that's escalating, that's seemingly getting worse over time, okay? And this sounds like I'm making fun of you with this question, and I'm not. I'm deeply serious about this question. And I think it's where every single person struggling with anxiety should start. And that is, do you want to be free of this? Or is this serving a purpose in your life that you want to hang on to?
No, there's no purpose. It needs to go.
Okay.
It needs to go.
Sometimes when somebody, maybe they've been assaulted, or they've got some sort of existential fear about being alone with a man, right? they'll tell me when they're in the presence of any man, good guys, neutral guys they've never met, their bodies sounds the alarms, right? Their heart starts beating a little bit faster. Their hands get clammy. They get that warmth in their stomach. That fear response kicks up, and they don't want to let that go because there's this perception that that's keeping me safe. It's not, but it feels like a defense, like a protective layer that I don't want to give up. And so I always ask people, and that's, you can extrapolate that across anything. I always ask, do you want this to be done? So you want this completely done with. You want to be able to hop in a car, drive on the highway, ride on the highway, kick your feet up, laugh.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
That is what I want.
Okay. So here's two ways we're going to approach this. This isn't every situation, but this is your situation. I think this is a great place for most people to start. First is you have an acute situation. You were almost killed in a car on the highway. Okay? And so the word I use there is ownership. You have to own that almost happened to you. You have to own that when you get on a highway, you are turning over your life to thousands of other strangers going in the same direction, opposite directions for you, and any one of them can move their wheel 1 inch and kill you. You have to just own that.
Yep.
And it almost happened to you, right?
Yep.
So a big thing about our anxiety is it builds this big fake wall in front of reality. And so one of the cornerstones of getting well from anxiety is saying, this could happen. And for you, it almost did. And your body put a GPS pin, you know, when you tell somebody where to be in that little, it's almost a heart shape, but it's not quite, and it's a little GPS pin. Your body put a pin in that and said, this situation is not safe. Just as though 10,000 years ago, you were walking through the woods and you saw a bear cha-cha on the ground, and your body put a pin in that and said, this area is not safe because this is where the bears are. Let's go find food somewhere else. Same neurological mechanism at work here. It put a pin in highways and said, not safe. But life happens, and we are really good at coming up with distractions and duct tape and figuring out other ways to get through life. So we get angry, we get raged out, we white knuckle it, we have another drink, we cheat, we come up with distractions for ourselves. And we can distract ourselves for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. And then, what'd you say your job was? You're a nurse?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last 2 years have been utter hell, right?
Oh, for sure. And I drive a lot. I work with, developmentally disabled people in group homes.
Okay.
And I have to drive a long ways to get to my work.
Okay. So what you have is you've heard of the phrase secondary traumatic stress?
Yep.
You live in other people's pain for a living. That's what you do. You provide hope and light and connectivity to people in the darkest moments, people who are alone and isolated with disabilities. That's what you do. And you do that over time, and your body begins to shift how it sees the world, that everything is pretty dark and pretty messy. And then you throw a pandemic in on top of it. And the normal things that keep us well and whole, like human connection, like exercise, like sunlight, like good sleep, suddenly goes away. And all anxiety is an alarm system letting you know that you're not safe, you're disconnected, or you're in a situation where you can't control. And quite honestly, when you're on the highway, we're as safe as we could be driving down the highway in 2,000-pound metal boxes at 70 or 80 miles an hour. There is little control we have over what our neighbors are going to do on the roads. We can only control ourselves. And so 2 out of the 3 things there are already on the table for our little primitive brains that are trying to adapt from riding a horse to suddenly driving down the road in a Volkswagen, right? Mm-hmm. So when the rest of your coping mechanisms have gotten thin over the last few years, it doesn't surprise me in the least. In fact, it makes perfect sense that the alarms about the highway have gotten louder and louder and louder. That's just a distraction from the broader picture, which is you're not okay. You're tired. You're exhausted. Your relationships are messy. And my guess is you got teenage boys now, is that right?
One's 22 and the other is 19.
Oh, see, now you're starting to have pictures of your life when they're not in them and they're going off to do their things, right? And
yeah, it was very hard when they first got their licenses. Very hard.
But it's hard because you lose that sense of control, right? Now they're off in the world, but also it's a transition. My little boy's growing up. And that means my life is going to be different. See what I'm saying? Like it shifts. And so what your body's feeling is this ultimate, everything's starting to move on us. The boys are going to college. They're going to move away. I'm going to have to look at this husband of mine and go, ugh, what are we going to do now? And he's just a bus driver. And you're like, turn left, turn, right? And we're going to have to figure out who we are. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to do two important things moving forward, okay?
Yep.
This is going to sound ridiculous. Actually, three, all right? Three things. First one is, I want you to write a letter to the family, the imaginary family that died in that car wreck 20 years ago. Okay?
Yep.
I want you to imagine a name for them. Tell them that you're sorry that they died in the car. That, they had hopes and dreams and that they are gone. And you never met them, but you miss them. And you're sorry that happened. And what we're doing there is we're connecting the fight or flight part of your brain to right now. You weren't safe then, you're safe now. And what we're trying to do over time is to calm that part down, that every time you get in a car. The second thing is, when you get in the car, it would probably be good, honestly, if you wrote your 20-year past self a letter too, that acknowledges, we almost died, right? So, dear Sherry, 20 years ago, we were driving on the road, man. If it wasn't for one phone call, we would have been dead. But we made it, and we're okay. And that was scary, right? I want you, and what we're doing is we're just letting our bodies acknowledge that happened, but we're okay now. And then the second thing is, I want you to begin to look at what are the alarms telling you about your current ecosystem. Are you exhausted? When's the last time you exercised? How's your diet? How is your marriage? What's your sex life like? Your intimacy life? Are you and your husband pulling apart? Are y'all coming together? How are you grieving the loss of your boys? Their childhoodness. Now they're adults, right? They're going to start kissing grow, right? Whatever's going to happen is going to start happening. You got to start acknowledging that stuff. And I want you to be honest about it and find somebody you can tell. If you and your husband have a great relationship, that could be a great place. And when I've seen this done, it's a teary, sobbing mess. Because our bodies have been trying to solve for these things, but our heads are just, all right, got to go to the next meeting, got to go to the next thing, got to go to Little League. And our bodies are trying to solve for this over and over and over and over again, while our heads are just trying to stay in the game. And then the third thing is you have to be honest about your job. That secondary traumatic stress. I had to transition from one job to another when I was healing from anxiety. We took a massive household income pay cut to do it. I had to go work with a smaller group of students. I still did the same job. I just did it with 500 students instead of 4,000. And that allowed me over time to heal up. And I had to start serving my local community. I had to do some different things. I don't know what that's going to be for you. I've also had seasons when I'm super anxious and I kept my same job and things were fine. I just had to be intentional about my boundaries at work and not taking everything. And I can't control all this stuff, right? Ultimately, and here's the fourth one. You're going to have to decide to get on the road and acknowledge it every time you get in the car for a season. I'm about to get in the car and I'm going to drive safe. And that's the best I can do, okay? And when your body starts to get anxious on you, before you flip out, ask yourself, what are we nervous about right now? Like, what's my body trying to tell me? That we're going 90 miles an hour in a little square Kia? Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. But I got it. You see what I'm doing? I'm taking the gas out of that anxiety engine. Why is my body doing this? Oh, because that guy's driving like a moron. I'm going to back 10 miles an hour off, or I'm going to speed up 10 miles an hour and pass him because I don't want to be in the vicinity of that person. Oh, man, every time I see a tractor trailer, my heart starts beating really fast. I'm just going to get curious, and I'm going to stop going to war with my body. Tell me if I'm wrong. Now you've gotten to a point where when y'all have to go somewhere, you get anxious about the fact that you're going to get anxious.
Yeah. Yep. And yes. We have a trip planned and we decided to fly because my husband nor I could handle the drive. It would be a disaster. So Yep.
Awesome. It could have been a good time, but let's fly on this one and then let's start practicing. And this is going to sound
Right.
silly, but I want you to tell your husband, hey, Saturday, we're just going to go to a 30-minute drive on the highway, and I'm going to practice saying nothing. I'm going to practice loosening the grip on the steering wheel, or I'm going to not grab the little door handle while you're driving.
Right. The emergency brake that doesn't exist. Or
Exactly.
My pedal.
I'm going to put my feet up on the dashboard with no shoes, and I'm going to paint my toenails while you drive. I'm going
Oh, boy.
feel. Oh boy. What we're doing here, practice. We're just practicing not being anxious. And in short order, your body will begin to realize, oh, she's driving now. We don't have to run this thing from the fight or flight anymore because Sherry's in control. We're here when you need us. The next time some idiot drives crazy, which they will, we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We're ready. We'll flood you full of adrenaline and cortisol, and we'll help you move a little bit faster than your brain's even thinking. But until then, Sherry's got this. And it's a choice. I'm going to decide to be less anxious over time. I'm going to be curious about it when my alarms go off. And if you're honest with yourself, those anxiety alarms go off more so than when you're in the car. My guess is they're going off a lot. That's just a place where there's a GPS pin in your life. And it's easy to go, oh, that's where it is. My guess is there's a disconnect with your boys. This is a time of transition for your marriage. This is a time of exhaustion from work. This is a global mess we're all dealing with. It's expensive to buy gas. All those things are happening. And my guess is your anxiety alarms are running across the board right now, as they are in lots and lots and lots and lots of us. And it's just easy to point at the driving. That's where it all surfaces. That's the volcano. But it's been churning underneath all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to work to have a life that goes, the only word I can say here that doesn't sound cheesy is peace. I'm just going to sleep. We're going to get our sex life back. We're going to start eating better. We're going to go for walks in the evening or in the mornings. Peace. And then your body will stop sounding the alarms just willy-nilly. And then finally, you won't hassle him about the turn signal. Let the guy drive.